kind of stuff. Because when you go through Santa Barbara, then you're down to two.
Okay.
There's an ocean. There is a problem with this ocean thing, and that's on one side of us. And so once 101 goes through, after you get down farther, just in the San Luis Obispo area, Pismo Beach, everybody knows that usually. Then it goes down to two again. The ocean just keeps getting in the way.
I know that happens. It happens. Last week, I think it was, we talked about the fact that in California, in certain places, there is sort of an overpass, which is a way for animals to get from one side to the other, which is, it's really cool. And I talked to you about the beginning of the show. I'd love to talk about how animals in the wild adapt to the changing of the seasons. And so here on the East Coast, we're in fall. The weather is definitely getting colder. And so I look out the window and there are all these beautiful birds. And I noticed that there seem to be more of them together. A lot of them are on the roof across the way, because I guess the sun is hitting there. So let's just talk about, how do animals adapt with the seasons?
We truly, if you go back to, as they say, caveman days, they're learning from the animals because they figured out how to survive. If you get a chance to ever spend any time in Alaska in the winter, I went in the summer. Okay. And that was okay for me. And you come from our redwoods and our giant trees and sequoias and all that. And then you go to Alaska, the tundra, all the wonderful things they tell you about. And then they got the little bitty trees because they don't get enough sunlight. So they're like having they're smaller than our telephone poles.
So, wow.
That's small. No, they're really small. They might get a little taller, 6, 12 feet maybe, but really tiny. You can hug them really easy. You can't hug the pines here. You don't have enough arm width. But it's just about what you're talking about. It's about the weather. We're talking about how much sunlight you get in a day. And even though in Alaska, many places except for their winter, they have a lot of light. They don't really get dark. It's very strange to sleep there in the summer. Because it doesn't really get dark. It's like always having a night light on. That's really annoying because it's everywhere.
I just want to, just quick segue. There's a movie by Al Pacino. I don't know the name of it. Anybody watching, if you know the name, but he's in Alaska. I think he's a police officer or detective.
I did hear that. You're right.
Yes. And it shows you how it impacts him mentally, because there's I think there was only sunlight. That's what it was. He couldn't sleep because it was always light out.
Right. And it's like the early part of our sunset, where you go out and it's really nice. The end of the day, the sun's not out, but it's really bright. And that's how Alaska is all summer long.
Yeah.
And winter, of course, is very dark. Because you've got all that snow comes from somewhere, so it's got to have those clouds doing their job. So you really have to be the right person, and I would say that's true for every single country and every single state. I know I couldn't live in Hawaii. It's too humid for me. I grew up in a desert, literally. Southern California is desert, and so I'm used to dry heat. And I've been out to Florida many times, and it's like, why take a shower? How are you going to know? Because you just go outside and you just sweat all over again.
Right.
So the animals are doing the same thing as what we're talking about. Is they are going to build a coat. They're going to get the heaviness of a coat that they need for the weather that they are anticipating. Now, we do have to touch on climate change. Because it is a horrific thing. We're decimating the planet with our behavior. And I'm going to use something really pedestrian that you and I have used, and that's hairspray, aerosol hairspray. The pump ones where you pump it and it's liquid and it comes out in a spray still, but there's no aerosol behind it. So it doesn't have that chemical that we are literally spreading in the air. So that's just one chemical that we have. And if you read any of your food that's not organic, you're going to see meat, lettuce, whatever, and blah, 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 and you can't read any of it. So I'm not a scientist. It's like, I'm eating color number 3. How about you? Oh, I'm getting 12, 14, and 19. Oh, yay. And I know with I don't know a lot about the colitis issue, But these things have got to be horrific for all of us health wise. It is the same for the animals. So you've got polar bears are expecting to hunt in the depth of winter. They are going out on the icebergs, and they're going, and that's how they walk across all of that. And their prey of choice is seals and sea lions and that type of stuff. Well, they aren't up on that ice because they're in the water feeding. So here's the chain reaction. The polar bears are starving to death. They're literally starving to death right now. And we're getting less babies because you can't support a pregnancy without a good nutrition. And I'm being really pedestrian about this. So none of the scientists come get me. I'm trying to make it really, really, really simple and palatable for everybody to say, oh, I get that. That's why I always make jokes about the trees, because I love the trees, but they're, you have been to California? We got trees, and in the sequoias, and there's so many other beautiful places throughout the whole United States. And I've spent a lot of time in each state. My daughter lived in Boston for a long time. So lots of hiking, just breathtaking fields and rocks and all that. So the animals are adapting to where they're going to be. Bears have part of their makeup is hibernation. That's the way it's supposed to be. And moms are actually eating. I mean, they're putting on as much weight as possible, giving birth and not eating and nursing up to 3 to 4. You don't usually see 5, but you can see anywhere from 1 to 4 babies. Can you imagine having 4 babies that you need to feed 2 or 3 or 4 times a day? And then keep your own body going. The same with the polar bears. They are living off that fat. Well, if they're not getting the sea lions, because the sea lions aren't in town or they're not breeding themselves, what wildlife does is really unique that humanity doesn't. Their body clocks how the food sources are going. So you'll find some wild animals won't even ovulate. They won't even produce an egg, because their body is saying, well, we're too thin. We don't have the resources. So nature really, really fine tunes this. You get the bugs, the beetles, everything. You get a good swampy, wet year, man, those mosquitoes, which are as big as that leaf sitting next to you on my camera. And they actually have stuffies, stuffed animals. We saw them in gift shops, this big stuffy with legs, and it was a mosquito, because that's the biggest joke around there is they have the largest mosquitoes.
Wow.
They're huge. They're literally huge, because they've got plenty of people just sitting around and just got to get through that jacket.
It's a challenge.
In the summer, it's easy to do, I'm sure, and everybody's plumped up in the people too. But because of everything that's going on the planet, with the oil spills, with the dams that are built, the beavers don't have a path. The salmon don't have a path. And if you look back to the Native Americans, they are also starving because their whole meal is where they live, as far as they are very, very good at really respecting the soil and the time and what they hunt, when they hunt, and not over hunting. What we don't do as a society is we don't care about that. We it's okay to spill 60,000 gallons of oil all over and go, oops, my bad. Okay, you just took out how many ecosystems? They don't just come back. So all the animals are built to change with the times, and you wonder why they're coming into town. You'll see moose walking right into Alaska, right down the street, because they find food, and deers. That's why we really, if anybody wants to just, I've never done a YouTube video where I did the whole thing, no editing, front to back. I got inspired by something I saw, and somebody was talking about feeding raccoons and bears and things at their house. So let me tell you an absolutely true story. And I did a whole video on this gentleman, kind older gentleman, had 5 generations of raccoons. So what, 60 raccoons on his porch? I couldn't even begin to count. And he's like, I've been doing this for years. Yeah. And what happens is you get mom and dad, and then they have babies, and they're habituated to you feeding them. And then they have babies, and they have babies. But what are you feeding them? Are you feeding them cat food? Are you feeding dog food? Are you feeding bananas or whatever? But they're not out hunting. So the balance of nature disappears at that point. And you have now, the children think, oh, Uncle Bob feeds us, or, you know, whoever they might call him that. So it feels like kindness, but it's not. And I don't know if I told you guys this story, but on all my tours when I was teaching wildlife and talking about wildlife, I always tell this, it's called a fed bear is a dead bear. I grew up near Big Bear, California, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And I don't know if the bear came from there, but just imagine they're all around us. So why we say a fed bear is a dead bear is because, think about it this way: you get that one young bear and they come up and you feed them and you feed them and feed them. So here's what happened in reality, because at the wildlife sanctuary I worked at, we had one bear that survived. We didn't get the one that didn't, obviously. And this is how come. So there was a woman who lived pretty rural. I don't know what city she lived in, but it was in California. And she would get a big bag of dog food, and she'd dump it on her porch. Her house had not a wraparound porch, but it went all the way around the front. So she'd go out there and dump the food. And this went on for years and years and years. And the bear would come, and then the bear would bring their cousins and aunts, uncles, babies. It snowballs because one finds food. And then, of course, the raccoons are watching the bear, and the squirrels and the ants and the rats are watching the bear. So the bear's getting fed for over 10 years this way. So the woman, we went through a housing crisis, and the woman lost the house to the bank. So it foreclosed. She wasn't there anymore. She wasn't feeding anymore. The bear kind of looked around, but he could see the house was empty. So a couple months later, I don't know the timeline, bear came back because somebody moved into the home. And of course, does the bank know the home has a bear? Probably not. It wasn't on the disclosure statement. So the bear comes back because people are back, and they're freaked out. They're totally freaked out because this giant, 6'5", 600-pound bear is looking for food. And he comes up and he's on the patio and he's looking around and he gets a little aggressive. It doesn't matter if he got aggressive or not. I wasn't there. We didn't get that part of the story. So they called Fish and Wildlife or somebody else, or they did it themselves. Again, I don't know. And that bear was shot dead. And this all started because somebody thought it was cute and nice and fun to feed the bear. And you get everything in the wildlife industry, people that work with captured animals that are habituated to people, or somebody had them illegally or whatever. And that was the place I worked. That humanity thinks they're doing a kindness, and what they're actually doing is getting that animal killed, because they don't have a sign around their neck that says, oh no, I go eat at Bob's house. I don't eat at Karen's house, but I eat at Bob's house. I don't go to Sally's house, but I go to Bob's house. They don't work that way. Once the wildlife sees you as food, things change. The relationship changes considerably. So let's go down to a really pedestrian way. How about hummingbirds and bird feeders and squirrels and that type of stuff? Don't let me forget to tell you the neatest thing I saw online a couple of months ago about a squirrel thing that doesn't hurt, but it's hilarious to watch. I'm sorry it was. It didn't hurt him at all. But hummingbirds need plants, just like the monarch butterfly needs plants, without pesticides, no pesticides, raid and all that type of stuff. But when you're out there feeding them, make sure it's something like winter, where seeds are really hard to find, but don't do it all summer, or do it in very small. What I'd rather see you do is plant some flowers. They would be beautiful. And that's what the birds are looking for. That's what the bees are looking for. If you like food, you want to feed the bees. All those girls are working their hardest out. The boys are keeping the hive together. So all those girls are out there doing that. So put out things that are natural, not sugar water. And that's what a lot of people just go and get the colored water for the hummingbirds. Well, no, how about some flowers? How about some plants that they can actually eat And the fun thing I saw with one bird feeder that they had, it was a very rural place in the middle of the U.S. somewhere, and so they had this long pole with the seeds way up high, and squirrels are jumping off a tree branch 2 feet away and jumping across. I mean, doing everything to get on this. And you know what they put on, Jacalyn? They put a slinky. They put a slinky at the bottom of the house that had the seeds in it, with the clear on it. And the squirrel goes running up the pole, and gets about 3 feet from the feeder, 2 or 3 feet from the feeder, jumps on the slinky, and slink, he got slinked down.
Oh my gosh.
It's a really funny clip. And I've seen it a couple times now. I don't hunt it down. It seems to follow me on a couple times. And I was like, now that's just funny, because it's harmless. And you get to save your seeds from the guy. He's just going to wait at the bottom until the bird drops it anyway. But that's why you get weeds that shouldn't be there, because the seeds are growing. And I'm not saying not feed the wildlife, except for carnivores. Don't feed carnivores. Don't feed squirrels or the squirrels, the raccoons, and the bears, deer. They will tear your house apart.
So, question about that, because I saw a skunk last week before I saw you. So, what if they are breaking into your trash?
You've got to lock the cans. You got to. You have, and people can do simple things like put a brick on top, like 3. Because if they figure out that the bricks just have to be pushed away, well, then you got to start all over. But they make trash cans, even plastic ones, that have handles that lock the lid and that type of stuff. So there's a million nowadays. It's been done so often, and you got trash diggers, and then you and I both know, then you have all that trash to pick up, and it blows. Yes. And again, I grew up in the high desert. Oh man, this was 60 miles an hour on a slow day. I've actually played sports in that thing. My dad never canceled anything. He was my coach. We're playing tennis. That is just hilarious. I mean, you just get the net here, and one side stands all the way at the fence, and the other side stands at the net. And it's like, this is not a sport. Who's more creative than the other? But that's what you're dealing with, is you've got to outsmart them, and you never will. So you've got to engineer it with the cans come in. They either get filled up in the garage, and then they get rolled out. And that's why so many garbage companies are demanding that everybody puts their trash cans back in their garages when it's an HMO and that kind of stuff, where our homeowners association is, with condominiums and that type of stuff, where they can really put their foot down about this, because cockroaches are a huge problem. And you get them, and mice and rats, man, you might as well move out. and there are ways to eradicate them, or let me put it a better way. There are ways to persuade them that this is not a good place to live.
Discourage them.
Yeah, discourage them. That's the right word, without killing them. What people don't realize is every time you put out poison, somebody eats that animal. And in New York specifically, they were putting falcons. I think it was falcons. I might be wrong, but there was a bird of prey that had been extinct in the park for, 50 years, or a really long time. And years ago, 20 or 30, 40 years ago now, because I read it in college, they were reintroducing these birds of prey. And they're small. They're the falcons that are pretty compact. And it was really neat because they finally got a breeding pair, and they don't know where the girl came from, but she flew in looking for me. And they actually built a nest on the end of somebody's condo, those $1 billion condos, on the park. But they let it there. And of course, they have a lot of laws. Here in our town, the city hall, we have a peregrine, a couple that's a peregrine falcon. And they nest right on the edge of the it's like 10 stories, 11 stories straight up with glass window walls. And so they now have watch groups and all that kind of stuff. But the problem with the falcons and I apologize if I'm misbreeding it, but I'm going to go with a falcon because it was a bird of prey in New York, is that the gardeners were still putting poison out for the rats and the mice. And what did the falcons eat? Rats and mice.
That's
And
nice.
all their babies died, and the female died. The male was the only one that lived. So it was.
I don't think people think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And no, because we're not looking at the consequences of our actions. I think humanity is really excellent at not looking at the consequences of their actions. I mean, we're living and breathing that right now. But we make choices about ourselves. It's just me. It's just me. But no, everything you do, when you go outside, if you throw litter on the ground, I get to look at it, and everybody else. My biggest pet peeve, and you have to tell me how you feel about this as a pet owner, a dog specifically pet owner, and what, three dogs. So I go out for a walk all the time. And today I went out this morning knowing I had a busy afternoon and that kind of stuff here was, I must have missed 10 to 20 piles of poop on the sidewalk.
Oh no.
Not even so we have a runner that's by the curb where the cars are parked. And then you have the sidewalk, and then you have our stairs to each one of the condos.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I swear, it's like, and another pile, and another pile, and another pile. I mean, this is why we don't wear shoes in the house, because, oh my God, the crap, literally, you're bringing the disease. But I'm not sure. And I would love somebody to tell me what their thought process is that they're just going to leave it. And now the sidewalk is really, really, really lazy, really bad. But what everybody also thinks is happening is, I'll just leave it in the planter. It'll just help feed the plants.
Right. It'll just,
what you have to understand, dog food is processed. There is meat, but I'm not sure what kind. It could be guts, it could be skin. It depends on if you got it at Thrifties or Walmart or the dog food store on what you got. If you can't see that, because when you go to a meat counter, you can see that's a sliver of muscle or that's a kidney or whatever, that kind of stuff. But that's not in everybody's pocketbook ability. So people are under the misnomer that I'll just let my cat out. I'll just let my dog out. They'll go pee and they'll go potty and all that kind of stuff. Well, the pee does absorb eventually, but the poop never does. It is not biodegradable. Neither is ours. So don't poop on the sidewalk, please.
And by the way, I've actually seen this where there's a pile and it's left there, and then the weather changes, it gets cold, and it's still there. Now it's frozen.
Yeah. And see, even the wildlife doesn't want it. Even the ants, if you'll notice, even the ants don't come get it. They'll come after the cow poop. They'll come after the goat. They'll come, somebody will go after that because it is great. It's full of alfalfa. It's full of seeds. It's great stuff. Blue jays, they'll go and get the seeds right out of that poop, but they will not. None of the wildlife will handle or even bother with pets' feces. And so many people, I can't tell you, this has come up lately in so many of my talks and so many people online, and they're like, I didn't know that. I said, did you read the ingredients on your dog food? Okay, first 12. I don't think I can pronounce them.
It's Feces Friday here on USA Global TV.
Well, if we can get one person to pick up, it's a start. And a lot of people just don't know that it's not biodegradable, and especially on the cement. I saw 3 piles just a block from, not even a block, four houses from my place. 3 piles.
It's not good. It's not. We have to pick up. We have to be responsible, because to me, that's part of being a pet owner. You have to be responsible. And if you're not going to be responsible, don't get a pet.
Right.
So,
well, and that's the tragedy of what we're talking about, that so many people at the beginning of the pandemic, in those first 3 to 6 months, they all went out and, I got to have a pet. I'm alone. And guess what? They went back to work, 3 months ago. The shelters are absolutely packed. It's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking, because those pets thought they had families. Think about it. I got a kid. No, I don't want a kid. Don't do that. And nobody at the shelters can see that. They screen people like crazy now, ask you tons of questions, and where are you going to do it, and what is your large? And the only thing they don't do is go out and visit your house unless you're with a breeder. and Dr. Jacalyn, I'm in the middle of putting together. I have to walk really carefully with this topic. Besides the family I'm working with, so somebody who is helping me in our home, her family got a purebred and asked the breeder a day or two later, hey, he doesn't look well. Within 5 days, that puppy died. And this is why we warn people about breeders, especially backyard breeders. If they're not certified, if their mom isn't seen a vet, if they don't have anything, if the price is too good to be true, it is. I don't care if you buy tennis shoes or socks. It is. If you go to the dollar store, expect to keep the socks for at least a week.
Right.
And wash it once or twice, because you're paying for what you're getting. But now these people spent hundreds of dollars on this puppy, and they swore by its pedigree and all this kind of stuff. But what they didn't do is they didn't get a vet check. It is expensive. But if you're buying a life and you're planning, this was a young married couple, and they were planning to have this dog for, 20 years, 15, 20 years. And I got to see pictures of it the day before it died, and his entire spine and rib cage could be seen. They could not get him to eat from the day he came to them.
Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah.
I hope people are taking this in and really thinking twice before you just go and get a pet, or you get a pet and you decide to get rid of the pet, because it's a life. It's a life, just like you said.
Life. It is a life, and we can do this better. I believe people can do this better. I believe that we just don't know what we don't know. It has been my theme song for like 3 months now. It's like, okay, I don't blame you for not knowing. If you don't know what you're supposed to go look at or go read, then it's up to us who are in the animal field to keep trying to educate you wherever you are. And your show is giving me that chance. So thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. And you've taught me so much. I just was talking to a family member about iguanas, and she was telling me that there's iguanas running on the roof. And I thought, they have small sized brains anyway, and they're not like, I think about the things you tell me, and I'm like, yeah. And if they get in your way, take a stick and go. I told her that, go tap, tap, tap. Yes. As long as you're not trying to steal their food. So you share so much great information, and we are just going to take a quick break. And I'm really pleased. If you didn't see our show, the show 2 before this, we featured Tony Moore. He's a singer-songwriter from the UK. We play his Route 66, which, Aminah, you've seen that before. And today he released his new single, Never Gonna Say Goodbye, and he released it here on the show. So let's take a look. He produced the whole thing himself in his one room with the green screen. So the things that you see they're all pictures except for him. So let's take a look, and it's beautiful sentiment and meaning in the song. We'll be right back. Back to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. This is presenting Pet Psychic Aminah. She is right here. Hello, Aminah. And thank you to Tony Moore. What a beautiful song. What did you think?
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. It was so nice to listen to.
I'm putting up the link if anybody's interested to get more information. He actually sent it to me in advance before he produced it. And he just had it on his phone, and I just bawled. I just because it's so, and I think what he wants people to take away from it is that there's some times in your life that things happen, like a child growing up, and you have to just let go. You're not really saying goodbye, but things have changed.
Right. Well, and you and I have lived long enough, and I don't think we'd have to get past high school to have had this experience either, is that, friends are close and everything, but you're not necessarily in touch with them for the rest of your life. And I know some of them I would have had in my 20s, and then my 30s, 40s, I was a different person each of one of those 10-year sections, doing something different. So yeah, when my kids were little, I was around a bunch of new moms and that type of stuff.
True. Yeah, so, that's a good point.
We transition, and it's perfect. That song, that's how I was thinking, that, it's just, there's times where there's nothing wrong with it. There's no reason to say, oh my gosh, everybody's leaving me. No, maybe this is a cleaning the house, and there's such new friends to get out of your own way. Some of us are in our own way to not make that stretch, to say hello to that neighbor that just moved in or whatever, and just say, hey, hi, what can I do for you, and how do we collaborate, and that kind of stuff. I'll knock on your wall, you knock on
Well, as we were talking in the beginning of the show about animals in the wild and how when the seasons change, how they adapt, and you were sharing about different breeds have different coats that get thicker, or maybe stockpiling up on eating food so that you get some girth around you before hibernation. What about the birds? I'm so interested in birds. I'm afraid of them. I try not to after meeting you, but I think it's just because
your eyes out. That's just the Hitchcock. Guys,
I saw that movie several times, and I was always scared by that. But the thing is, like here where I am on this island, there's so many birds, and I see more and more they're gathering on the telephone, the wires.
Right.
It looks like more and more of them are getting together, and I feel like they're saying, hey man, do you think we should leave? Like, it's getting cold, should we hit south? Like
well, and what you're seeing is animals are coming into people area, and have been for the last 25, and this is conservative, really the last 25, 50 years is more like it. That was the trickle in at that point. And it's because where's the food? We're slobs. We drop burgers everywhere. We drop the trash. They lick the wrappers. The rats are thrilled with us, absolutely thrilled. They can, and the cockroaches, they can eat anything, and go through a Chernobyl event and still.
Yeah, they still keep going.
Yeah, they just, the Energizer bugs or whatever that is, and we all know that reference. Somebody else might not. A little Energizer bunny with batteries. The natural world is really good at adapting, but when humanity gets involved and we spill oil, like what happened off our coast, and I believe it was off the California coastline, that it was just decimating all the birds, all the seals, or wherever the last oil spill was, because they can't get it off their bodies.
Right.
You drown birds with it on their feathers. They can't get any flight. Well, you can't go get any food if you're just hopping around on the ground, because now you're fodder for whoever runs bigger, faster, or just hangs out and waits. If you're all covered in oil, they can't even eat you at that point. So people don't realize, again, I'll give you another example. You see these absolutely stunning animals in elephants, and they're the gentlest souls, and of course they can fight to protect their own. They're giant and that kind of stuff, but obviously they can't protect themselves from a gun, and the whole silliness with poachers and that type of thing, that they don't care about that life. But if you want to plant the forest, you need those elephants. They eat off the ground. They eat all the bushes and the trees and all this kind of stuff. The birds pick them also. I mean, there's a whole bunch of, I'm just talking about the elephant, and the birds do it too. And so many other things, the gazelles and all that. And they eat, and then they poop out the seeds. And guess what? Now you're going to get talking to me about the dung beetle. I love the dung beetle. They're wonderful. I call him he. Sorry, guys. But because it's a whole chain of events. That's the whole way the world is supposed to make. You do this, and then I do this, and I do this, and guess what? Then the trees blow, and then when the rain comes, and then we cycle again. So the elephants have this ginormous poops and the seeds in there. And then the dung beetle comes and rolls them all around. I didn't study the dung beetle. I watched enough videos because they're fascinating. But without that beetle, just that one beetle, you won't have the disbursement and the forest as diverse. You'll have 100 of the same trees, whatever the elephant happened to eat and pooped at the same place. It would be just choked. But look at how nature is crafted to get this little, it's like a cockroach size. Mm-hmm. And it literally, if you want to be grossed out and laugh at a bug, you just go watch the dung beetle. They're hilarious. They're so industrious, and it's so important what they do. But without any one of those in the chain, and all of this falls apart. That's where our forest falls apart. That you kill the elephants, well, then we don't have the poop, and we don't have the seeds. Then you have the birds eating the seeds, but you don't have the fertilizer, and then the beetles die. So everybody all loses. Connected. Everybody, we are all connected.
One thing that we haven't discussed, and we'll have to wait for next week, is all the building that takes place, right? So we keep cutting down trees and cutting down forests, and we keep building and building, and then we wonder why we see these animals coming into our towns, like, oh,
and then they kill them.
Then they kill them because we literally took their home away from them.
And you tore it down. You literally went through their town and said, no, from ants and on, they're down under this thing. And now we've got sewers and drains and all that kind of stuff going down there. And the animals are looking at us like, dude, we know how to coexist with everybody else. But for some reason, if you can live with water buffalo and zebras and giraffes and all these things and dung beetles that you need, I don't see why we have such a big problem with whatever color, size, food you like. Who cares? It's supposed to be all of us working together and all of us doing that together. And humanity has lost that very, very quickly. We're very, very, we're very self-centered, and we're very me, myself, and I. And that's too bad, because there's a lot of people like you and I. Just sadly, there's not enough of us getting the word out that we can coexist. You can have a wonderful life and a great house and a good job, or whatever your thing is of being comfortable. But you didn't have to kill everybody to do it. Right. It might have taken you a little bit longer. There's a treehouse guy. He's on some channel, and once in a while I run across him, and I was really concerned when I first saw his treehouse thing. And I'm thinking, dude, you're cutting down live trees to build somebody's stupid little vacation home, because they all obviously have money. And you know what?
Those tiny homes, right?
Yeah. He actually picks trees that support the house, but his entire mission is to do no damage and not take the tree's life. Because the tree is the legs. The tree is like our bones. If you have no bones, you're just a squid. That's all you need to be, is the octopus or the jellyfish or whatever you want. But he actually, I don't know the name of the gentleman and his show, but it's the Treehouse Masters or something. I do want to plug it because I'm talking about it. But he and his crew are so talented that they're putting rods through the tree where it supports the tree and make sure that everything keeps growing, that the tree keeps growing, that the house they're building is all out of natural materials, and the work they're doing is just breathtaking. I mean, it's really designer, and they do it for each family, whoever's hiring them to build their dream cabin thing.
And where can we find the show?
It's probably on Animal Planet or one of those. So sorry, I just scrolled through the channels. Watch some.
No, that's fine. No way.
He's the Treehouse Master is what sticks in my head. Again, I'm flipping channels. I didn't get, but it's just the work they do, and it's tailored to the family who hired them. So one does movies, and then they'll do movie screen where they could open this one place. They opened up the windows and had the outdoors, indoors type of in the cabin, but full bedrooms, a bathroom, a sink, and that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
And depending on the size of the family, and I'm sure their budget, they have rooms and bedrooms, but everybody either ropes up or climbs up a ladder or has a swinging bridge. They're just beautiful. They're just beautiful.
I'm going to check out that show.
You
That
should.
sounds very
Yeah, the
interesting.
treehouse man, treehouse guy. I don't know. Put it in Google.
Treehouse man guides.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Yeah.
You know, you made me think of something, and we can't play it, unfortunately, because we've run out of time, but I have something called the Earthshot Prize, a clip that we play on a regular basis about what we're doing to the environment. You've seen it before. And there is a little beetle crawling across the sand, leaving all of these marks. And I bet it's a dung beetle. That's what the point of that is.
If it's on a beach, it is not.
Okay.
It would be in the crab or crustacean or one of the little red beetles. I'm not a beetle expert, but dung beetles only live in the African area with those big. They need the poop. They need the poop.
Okay.
And there's no poop on the beach.
There's no poop. All right. Another lesson learned. Thank you.
So you go out there, and I dare you to find one. If you find one, man, you get the booby prize. I don't know what that is.
I'm not going to be looking. I promise I'm not going to be looking.
Yeah,
but we need to close out because we have another show after this, which is Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity. So, Aminah, I did put all of your contact information into the comments along with Tony Moore's information. But for people listening on the radio, let me spotlight you again and just let people know how they can reach out. And you have a special offer for our audience.
Your shows. Just for your shows. And of course you can prove it or not prove it. I'm not going to check. So Bridging Worlds, and there's an S on that. So INGBRIDGINGWORLDS.US. Everything you want to know about me, my background in public speaking and that type of stuff, it is all there. And for everybody on this network, I am doing a special until January 5th. It will start November 30th. My rate is $75 for up to the first hour. So if you talk to me for 15 minutes, it's still the same. And I am making for Dr. Jacalyn's entire crew and anybody who needs it, it will be $50 for that hour. And of course, if it goes longer than that, then it's $1 a minute. But from November 30th to January 5th, this is for your audience, and you can share it as you see fit.
Okay, keep talking because I'm creating the post right now. So I'm putting Aminah's offer is $50 for an hour of
any pet question you have. Is it training? Is it do I adopt? Is it end of life? Or has your pet already passed? Because I do have the gift to talk to people and animals that have passed and moved on. So that conversation, and it doesn't matter how long. I have a client that she's probably in her 40s, and when she was a young girl, she had a dog she really wanted to talk to because the people that cared for her, I think they were a foster family, said that the neighbor shot the dog. And that wasn't the truth, but she suspected that something else happened and wanted that answer for me. And I can do that. Again, everybody has free will. So I offer the help and you're the door to go through. So again, this is only for your show. And I might be nice enough to add it to my Facebook page, but it has not been the intent at this point. And it's $50 instead of $75.
Okay, perfect. I just posted it. There it goes. Aminah's offer is $50 for an hour of consultation about your pet and pet questions. November 30th to January 5th. Go to bridgingworlds.us.
Absolutely.
Who said I can't do two things at one time?
Nobody, because you're running this show way before you had all this wonderful support and tech and all this kind of stuff and the fancy stuff. I can say I know you win. I mean, it was recent, but
yeah. Well, I've only been doing this for a little over a year. August was a year. So
wow. And I thought you'd been doing it like for 5 or 6, 7 years. The way you had it all so slick and everything worked out and all that kind of stuff. It's really nice. But it's great having the channel to be able to give everybody the link. And that's been really, really wonderful.
And what I've been saying today on the shows, for those of you watching on YouTube, I see you there, and also LinkedIn, Facebook. Just go to wherever you're watching and just click share. It's so easy. click share so that more people can find out about the program. It doesn't cost you any money, and we're all about helping each other. So share, share, and more share.
Absolutely. And it comes back to them. Every time that you do a good deed, that good energy is what you pass on, but it also blesses you at the same time.
So true. It feels good to help others. And so that's what we're doing. And we encourage you to do that as well.
Exactly.
So
and we're going to get all my guests well, all at the same time, and get them back on the show and that kind of stuff. But of course, we missed Corky today, and we will wish her well, and she's to stay home and rest and get past this. So
yes, take care of yourself, and we'll see you again, Corky. Yes, we'll look forward to that.
Absolutely. And I will see you next week. And you know what? It is the 26th, right?
Yes, it is.
So we're going to talk about anybody who wants to join us and talk about what they're thankful for and how their pets have helped them or not. We can go any way you want to go that's organically helpful. And anybody who calls in, I will do my best to answer any of your pet questions, a reading or not. I am a trainer, and I can help you with training issues and end-of-life conversations and that kind of stuff. So join us. If you have time with your family, we can joke. I am horribly sarcastic, so we can crack animal jokes all day long. We can talk dung beetles because I love them, and everybody thinks I'm strange because they are poop pushers.
And I just want our audience to know that next week I will be broadcasting from the road, so we will not have any call-in opportunity, but you can write in. You can actually write in your comments on the show, or you can email. I just put Aminah's information there. My information is there in the comments, and we will be very happy to hear what you're grateful for, what you're grateful about, and whatever questions you have. So we are signing off right now. Our next show starts in just over 6 minutes. And Aminah, I wish you a very wonderful Thanksgiving, and I'll see you on Friday.
Absolutely.
Bye, everyone. Take care.